Hello and welcome to True Faith Presents The Charlotte Show, featuring Micky and Norman.
The team's out.
Pardon?
The team's out.
Yeah, of course the team's out. I am aware of that. I know how I do this show. Thank you very much.
Almiron playing.
There's a slight echo for me on one of you, but sometimes that goes away. So I'll just hang fire and I think it'll be fine. Oh, Norman's muted himself. So the team is out. We are here tonight for your pre-Brighton cheer up. So I'm not calling it a warm-up. I'm calling it a cheer up because we probably need it, because tonight we play for a point because Fulham lost last night. Shall we do it? Are we all ready and jazzed and excited? I know I am. Let me get the team sheet up and I'll read it out to those of you that are watching and haven't seen it, and those of you that are just want to know. Okay, ready? You ready? He's so excited. Dubravka, Manquillo, Lascelles, Clark, Dummett, Shelvey, Hayden, Willock, Fraser, Almiron, and Joe Linton. Norman, my instinctual reaction is Miguel Almiron has trained once this week after injury. Should he be in the starting 11? What's your thoughts?
I think he has to be. Desperation, right? I mean, look, fortunately he hasn't been injured for too long. It's not like he's coming back after a 2-month layoff where he hasn't played. It's only quite recent his injury, so his fitness levels are probably still quite high. I guess the only concern might be if the injury isn't 100% healed, and obviously Bruce does have previous for bringing players back too early, then Mickey pulls up after like 20 minutes and we lose him for the rest of the season. That's the obvious danger and concern, because I do think that if this had been halfway through the season and the opportunity to rest him for a bit longer was there, we probably would do it. But we're so desperate, especially given Maximan and Wilson, the other two kind of talismanic players at the club, aren't available. He's doing what he feels he has to do, and I guess he does have to do. We've just got to pray that he gets through the game, and obviously I don't think fitness levels, even if Miguel Almiron had a month off, I don't think it would matter necessarily in terms of his ability to get around the pitch, because you can tell he's a very naturally fit lad. So I don't think he'll struggle tonight in terms of his his long busts and runs that he does. But yeah, it's worrying that he's come back so early to a certain extent, but at the same time he needs to be in that side, and obviously that team, other than Joe Linton, is possibly the strongest we could have selected. The fact that he's continued with Joe Linton, I don't even know where to start. In fact, I'm not going to get into it, because I'll end up taking like 45 minutes of this and everyone will detest me forever afterwards.
Well, no one would detest you, Norman, but perhaps, if we're struggling for content, I'll just say Joe Linton and then mute myself and you can just go off on one.
Okay.
Mickey, lots of people in the comments. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry I was playing with my eye there. My contact lens got weird, but we're fine. Mickey, lots of people saying no Murphy, disappointed, no Murphy. What's your take on the team sheet?
I'm disappointed not to see Murphy as well. He was our only attacking threat in the 7 or 8 minutes he had on the pitch last week. Mr. City, but if you play 10 minutes at a time, 6 games apart, 4 or 5 times over the course of a season, you're always going to struggle to finish those chances when you get them. For me, he was a shoe-in, but it's just, you look at the team sheet and it's going to be the same system. You're going to have the mental split strikers, which is made up. It doesn't work. It never existed. He's playing for the draw, and that's what it screams as to me.
Yeah, I think so. Norman, I muted you. I used my infinite power, but I've unmuted you now. I just want to make sure, people in the comments, if you can tell me if there's an echo for you, if it's annoying for you, because I can live with it, but I don't want the viewing experience to be negative.
Am I echoing? Is it me who's echoing?
I don't know. I tried muting you, and now I can't hear one. Let's not spend too long on it. It does feel like Fulham losing last night sort of gives free range,
free range
feels like free range
smack
to be playing for a draw, to me. Norman, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what it is? I wouldn't even contextualize it as playing for a draw, right? Steve Bruce plays not to lose games. That's the bottom line. Like playing for a draw actually sounds quite positive in many respects. And we're not a positive side, so we're playing not to lose. And you're right, that Fulham game. And I think I saw a comment. Somebody mentioned that Fulham basically had a chance to go 2-1 up, and then Leeds broke and scored. Like if that had gone in, this game, it would have induced more panic. But I think Bruce probably is looking at it thinking, oh, well, Fulham lost. So, we haven't beaten in 3, apparently. Well, we haven't beaten in 3. We've got 3 points. And as we know, it's all about the accumulation of points that he mentioned 3 times in the space of 2 minutes in his last press conference. But yeah, there is definitely, in my eyes, we are looking to play for a nil-nil draw. I would even say a nil-nil draw because ultimately we're carrying no goal threat whatsoever. Yes, Miggy does give away that directness, but what's he got in front of him? The split strikers. Ryan Fraser is a split striker, man. It's a madness. And Joe Linton, as we know, is utterly atrocious. So it's got 0-0. We'll take that written all over it. And ultimately, we draw 0-0. And what does that put us? 3 points ahead of Fulham with a game in hand. That'll be looked at as being very positive. And we know how things are spun. We've been so good over the last 8 games, apparently. We've only lost to Man U and Chelsea, despite the fact we lost to Crystal Palace. I was actually thinking, by the way, the Crystal Palace defeat hasn't been mentioned now 3 separate times. So it almost feels like it's intentional. It's like being done intentionally. Like we're just ignoring that. So I've come up with this theory before. When I was in the shower, of all places, thinking of Steve Bruce, which was nice. Yeah, I came up with this theory. Like, he could just come out in a press conference and say, well, we've only really lost this season to Man City, Man U, Chelsea, and the other teams that we've played, like, we've lost to them, but if we just ignore them, then we've only actually lost to the big teams. Like, that's a thing now, isn't it? You can just ignore any defeat other than if it's, like, unless it's from a top 3 side. So that's fine.
Yeah. That's it. And then tonight, Paul has said, I'm confident we can keep them out, equally confident we won't threaten them. That just has 0-0 written all over it. Mickey, do you think the same?
Yeah, it does. It stinks of a 0-0, which you have to contextualise this result for Newcastle and what our future games look like. Brighton probably would be reasonably satisfied with a draw tonight because they've got more chance of picking up points in future games. We don't. Look at our fixtures over the next 9 games. I think Alex said on the State of Play podcast for patrons that the next 4 aren't too bad, but they are when you're looking at Steve Bruce's Newcastle. Where do we get the points? Burnley away is a game that a lot of teams will be looking at to think a decent chance of getting some points. We won't be looking at it to get any points. We'll never get any points in that game. This for me is the last game, possibly in 9 games, where we've got any chance of getting any points. So it has to be a win. And what we've done, in my opinion, from the lineup is played for a draw. And it's probably there's a decent chance it could be a draw. The depressing thing is we're probably looking towards a game now in just about an hour's time where it's either going to be a draw, and that's probably quite unlikely, or we're going to get beat, but there's no chance of us winning. Like, because we're only playing for the draw, that's like the best outcome that can happen for Newcastle.
Norman?
Absolutely agreed. I read one of the comments come up there. I can't recall who said it, but spot on. They basically suggested going 4-4-2 with Carroll and Gale up top and Murphy and Fraser out wide. And I genuinely thought, I said exactly the same thing. I think I listened to the preview on Patreon that you two were on with Ben. And I left a message with Mickey saying, like, I would go, that's what I would do. It's almost like this. Look, I've said this before, right? Sean Dyche plays a system. He knows his limitations as a manager. He knows the limitations of the squad that he's got. And he plays more or less the same system all the time. And it's kind of like, it's safe. It's like a safety first kind of policy. It's almost like, right, this is what I can do. It's what I'm going to do. And to a certain extent, I just wish Bruce had done that. Like, appreciate your limitations. Appreciate the limitations of the players you've got and just kind of stick to what you know. And I think if we played 4-4-2 on more occasions, as ridiculous and retrograde as it seems, I actually think would probably be in an ever slightly better position. And I certainly think tonight against Brighton, Murphy and Fraser ought definitely to have been out wide. And Gale should have started. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I always thought that he was after. I'm just going to mute you again, Norman. Sorry. I always thought he was after playing 4-4-2, and then the gloves came off and all of this stuff. I suppose tonight an argument could be made that this diamond formation that we seem to be playing exists to complement Almiron, I think, and he's back in the squad. So whilst I definitely think that there should have been changes made while Almiron wasn't able to play, there's something to be said for, you know, giving him that space to roam around. I don't know if you agree, Mickey, or think that that's
no. I don't. The system, you know, the system is built and it works better being the key word with Almiron in that position because no one else can play it.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't work. Like that's the key point. It doesn't work. It's worked in short spells in a couple of games since it worked in inverted commas away at Everton, who have lost subsequently at home to a number of different teams playing a number of different systems. It's like I almost don't have the words for it. Like we've found this system which has worked in one game, and now we
really love you doing that after you say the words. For those of you just listening to the audio after the fact, Mickey's using sort of inverted comma finger bunnies, but he's doing it after he says it, so it's like worked. It's very funny. It's
to really emphasize it. And now we just play it in every single game as if it's this like God-sent formation that is brilliant for Newcastle United, but actually it's abysmal and it nullifies us as an attacking threat. Almiron's coming back into the team here, potentially slightly injured, thinking that he is like the only offensive player in the 11. You know, Ryan Fraser will be up in the mix possibly in this other mental position, but Joe Linton will be nowhere near the goal. Almiron's coming back from an injury and literally is the only person that will have any chance of threatening their goal. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, and we... Oh, Norman, go ahead.
You know what they say about diamonds, haven't you?
They're forever.
Exactly. Dame Shirley, Bassy. Diamonds are forever.
We're literally never going to stop playing this formation because diamonds are forever. Oh, no. Oh.
The thing about diamond formations as well, it's existed for years, but it used to be a diamond where you would play two strikers in front of it. And now we play a diamond with no strikers in front of it. Like, how is that?
We haven't got any strikers. You can't play strikers if you haven't got any.
Got two strikers on the bench. And one on the wing.
Yeah, you're right. On the wing, God, it's so depressing. Somebody has asked a question, and I want to ask it. Give me a moment. You know what? I haven't had a drink when I've done this show for a very long time, and I'm starting to remember why that is. Although I've only had a couple of sips. Let me have a look. We had a question about Matty from Sean Wade. Why isn't Matty getting a game? Is Bruce trying to push him out? Well, we know why Matty's not getting a game. He's simply too light. We got confirmation from a top journalist on our podcast a few weeks ago. Matty Longstaff has lost so much weight, he's too light to play.
Top.
Charlotte's doing the, what did you call them? The
bunny ears.
Quotation bunnies.
Bunny ears. Finger bunnies.
Finger bunnies.
Finger bunnies. I don't know what they're called. I don't know.
To take that question seriously, like what must Matty Longstaff be thinking? You know, watching the performances of the people that are playing in central midfield and still not getting a sniff, having played, in my opinion, played well every single time he's been on the pitch for Newcastle this season. Like, what? It just, the whole thing just beggars belief. Like, I think we've tricked him into signing a new contract.
Yeah, it's a weird one. He must have been told you'll get game time, sign this contract, because he publicly said, I've engaged with this agent, I'm looking at Serie A. Like, there was like, I know that those are games that players play to get better deals, but surely he wants to play. He's a very young guy. Norman?
It's an interesting one because I think Willock's a very talented footballer, and obviously he had a good start. He scored against Southampton. He's never been one of the poorer performers in the side since he arrived. But the fact that Newcastle basically shipped Yedlin out to free up wages in the squad in order to bring in a player on loan, and you think, well, they've brought in a sort of box-to-box energetic midfielder when they gave Matty Longstaff a big contract in the summer, and it's not like Willock's necessarily that much more experienced than Longstaff. All right, Willock's played quite a few games for Arsenal. I think he's made like 70-odd appearances. But they're not, age-wise, they're not massively different. And for Longstaff, looking at that, thinking, well, actually, they've brought in like a young midfielder, box to box, and they're putting him in instead of giving me a chance. That will be frustrating for a start. but also the logic of bringing in. And again, this isn't me dismissing Willock. He's a great player, but the thing is, it looks like we had the opportunity to bring one player in, right? And you're looking at that squad and you're thinking, right, he doesn't rate Gale. Carroll can barely run. He's got Wilson. What if something happens to Wilson? For me, surely it would have made more sense to bring in a forward on loan to be there to bat his back up for Wilson and obviously be in the team now, wouldn't he? Then bring in Willock, who, as good as a player he is, we're quite heavy in the centre of the midfield, even though they're not great. We've got Sean and Matty Longstaff, who to a certain extent could both kind of do the job that Willock might do.
I agree, and it just it stinks of short-termism as well, doesn't it? We now are currently developing Arsenal's player, and it's an Arsenal player that we've got no chance of signing on a permanent deal, because why would he come to Newcastle? Why would we pay the money under Ashley? And he's getting this game time and this experience, which will develop him and turn him into a better player. Meanwhile, Matty Longstaff is nowhere near the team. Can I get off the bench? Barely. Sometimes doesn't even get on the bench, and is just his ability will be decreasing. That's what happens to players when they don't get a game. And he's played, I think only once for the under-23s. It's just mental. What happens next season? What happens next season when Willock goes back to Arsenal?
Yeah, I agree. And it's really depressing and demoralizing. The academy used to be this aspirational thing. And one of the things I would love to see is investment in the academy and in the wider community, and it to be this amazing thing that boys and girls look at and think, brilliant, I'm going to really be developed there, and that's great. You come through that and you get onto the first team, and then you bench for somebody who's got. I just think it's really demoralizing and really upsetting, and just I don't know what message is that sending to younger people who are looking at the club now. What could you possibly, as a young person, look at this club and see positive? I don't know. Mickey is logged in, so he's clicking on comments now and putting them on the screen, which I don't like. It's my show.
Willock's going to go back to Arsenal a worse player. He's going to regret every single thing.
That's
4
maybe
months under Steve Bruce, and you'd be contemplating retiring from football.
Very, very true. It was a question that came up that I wanted to put on the screen, but Mickey apparently is taking charge. I've been told it's air quotes, not finger bunnies, but doesn't finger bunnies sound nicer? Luke Edgar said we aren't going to lay a glove on Brighton without a focal point up top. Well, Luke, the gloves have been off for weeks now, so obviously not. I'm really pleased with that one. I've been teeing that one up. Let's have a little look. I'm just going to mute you again, Norman. I think it's when I'm speaking, not when Mickey is, so it's probably my fault, but sorry. Right. Yeah, if anybody's seen any pre-match comments, do drop them in the comments here. We love to dissect what Steve Bruce is saying. Let's have a little look. Is Mickey so white? Yeah, we're kind of talking midfield. Is Mickey so white because he saw Shelby's name on the team sheet? Mickey, are you?
Yeah, I think I've gone over the top with the lighting in this room tonight. But the damage is done. Yes, the answer to that is yes. So Shelby, in my opinion, should be nowhere near the team. He's a disaster. His work rate's pathetic. His ability to pass the ball seems to have disappeared. Can't tackle. I'm sure. I often say this, and I can't remember where I read it, but I'm sure I read that he has the worst tackling statistics of any central midfielder that's ever played in the Premier League. I genuinely did. I at least do think that I did read that. If it's not absolutely true, it'll be close. So
we are making records.
We are making records.
Terrible records. Norman, what do you make of Shelby? I lost patience with Shelby a long time ago. I've made no bones about it on this show and on many of our shows. Once again, he's been picked. Why do you think it is? And then if you don't know, or sort of, what would you do alternatively? No, I muted you. Did you hear my question? I think my Wi-Fi is not very good.
Your Wi-Fi went a bit wobbly, but I think I got the gist of the question. Shelby's an interesting one, right? Because I've been thinking about this, and he might actually not be the lazy player that we all say he is, right? I've got a theory behind it. You know what Shelvey is, right? In the Premier League in 2021, far too slow. He's so slow. The game is so quick and dynamic. He just cannot. He cannot keep up with pace. He can barely move at the pace that he needs to be a successful Premier League midfielder. Now, look, there are certain players who might have no pace at all, but you've got to be real class. I mean, really world class to kind of stay at the top level if you don't have much pace. Or you've got to be a really intelligent player who is highly technically gifted and understands when to make your runs, right? Shelvey isn't any of that, so he could be running around like non-stop during a game, but the fact is he just doesn't run very far because he's not very quick. And I think I genuinely think he's detrimental to the dynamism of a team because of the lack of pace. I don't think there's another Premier League team that would play him. I genuinely don't think that. Precisely because of his lack of pace, and also the kind of Hollywood long field passes, like the wharf, like a long time ago. The game again has moved on. Like in the Championship, when you've got this kind of sort of cut and thrust football where it's kind of end to end and teams are attacking you, Shelvey gets the ball and he can pick off a player like Dwight Gale because he's going to have that kind of that kind of width, the length of the pitch and the movement of Gale to do that, and he looked great. But he's not really good, and one of the only reasons I imagine that he's in the team as regularly as he is because him and Bruce get on. I mean, he went on a podcast like 3 weeks ago and defended Steve Bruce and said he's the best man manager I've ever had. So look, that to me smacks a little bit of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. In terms of what I would have had, if we had played 4-4-2 tonight, I would have had Willock and Hayden in the centre midfield, or Matty Longstaff in there alongside Willock or Hayden, like a combination of those. But for me, with two centre midfielders, John Joe Shelvey would never be starting for me because I just don't think he's good enough at all in the at the Premier League level. I really don't.
Do you ever have those dreams where it's sort of like you're running through treacle and you can't move your legs properly? Do you know the one I mean? I have that dream quite regularly. I think it means something, but
do you really? That definitely means something.
I lose my teeth, but that means you're stressed. Apparently,
that's a fear of something.
It's a fear of losing my teeth.
Yeah. Oh no.
I mean, how do you follow up from that? That's how I imagine Shelvey running across the pitch. Honestly, it's like when you remember the way that Shola Amiu used to run for Newcastle, his legs would move incredibly slowly, but Shola would actually move deceptively quickly. He was reasonably fast despite looking incredibly slow.
Very tall.
Yeah, exactly. But Shelvey is like incredibly slow and looks even slower than he is. So you might be right, Norman. I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's a combination of both. But
I think he gets off the pitch at the end of the match and he's like absolutely exhausted, and like it literally hurts his lungs because he's tried so hard to run, but like he just can't. He can't. So like if you look at how many like calories have been burned at the end of the game, like Shelvey's got like twice as many as other people, but he's only covered a third of the distance. It's like mate, your body's telling you something. Your body's telling you it's time to go to the Championship. That's what he's thinking. He's actually thinking it's time for me to get in the Championship, but if I just hang on long enough, I'll get there anyways.
Well, this is it. Somebody's made that comment in the comments today. Well, maybe Shelvey is just waiting. Here we go. At least Shelvey chips in with goals in the Premiership. Oh wait, no, that's not what I mean. Somebody did make the comment that maybe we're just hanging on for the Championship, and Shelvey's just gonna do it here. Daniel Marshall says, "I love the way Norman says so refreshing to hear."
Sure.
So I apologize. Yes, I have a posh Geordie accent. I don't know. I don't think that's a dig at us, me and you and Mickey, but maybe.
I think I'm in the middle ground. Like,
yeah, you're more Geordie than me. Shelvey is too. Joe Welsh, who I think is watching from the US, says Shelvey is too comfortable, and that's Bruce's fault. He needs to be dropped and given a reality check. Well, yeah, I think so. He is comfortable. I think he now knows that he's going to be picked week on week, because even when he has bad games, which he has had several bad games now, call up he gets while he's out on the golf course. Like he's still picked. It makes no sense to me. Somebody said, I had it on the screen just there, somebody says Shelby has the turning circle of an oil tanker, which really made me laugh. I really like that. Fits in with that treacly image. Joe Welsh also said, excited to see Manquillo in the lineup today, honestly. Yes, we discussed this on our Patreon preview podcast. If you're not a patron, consider it. We put out 3 to 4 extra podcasts a week. It's about £6 or £7 a month, and we do a preview of every game. We do there's a fantastic state of play which Norman and Alex did, which is up at the moment. It's so good, and loads of other stuff. Excuse me, that's the margarita. And yes, we did a preview and we talked about hoping against hope that Kraft was dropped and that Manquillo was called up. I know he was on the bench last week and he did come on. And if Manquillo's fit, for me, him all day over Kraft. Norman, are you happy to see him in the lineup?
I am, because the reality is, if we're going to play a right back, he is the best right back there at the club. Now, I think Manquillo, initially, and maybe now, he gets a bit of a rough deal in how he's judged. People basically, don't think he's necessarily very good. Now, look, do I think Javier Manquillo is, first choice right back for like a Premier League team? If really, probably not. But what he is he's quite reliable. He's quite solid. Okay, he makes the occasional mistake. I'm making him sound really good, yeah. But he's a solid player, and put it this way, I would say, I don't know what the scale is here, but I'm just going to say 50 times better. Like an arbitrary figure, that sounds about right. 50 times better than Kraft. I actually think Yedlin was probably my best right back. I mean, that just goes to show you how bad we are really in that position. But Manquillo, yes, I like Manquillo. He's come on. He's actually come on quite on leaps and bounds in many respects, and that's not down to Steve Bruce's coach. And I think he started making early improvements under Rafa, and he's kind of stayed at that same level. He hasn't, put it this way, Manquillo is one of the few players who hasn't regressed dramatically under Bruce. So I'm buzzing. I think we're probably going to win now that he's in the team, because he's mint. So there you go. Can I just say something quickly whilst I remember? John, you mentioned Bruce's comments before. I just want to say one of them, because it I read it today and it just made me like sort of look up towards the sky and basically have a mini existential crisis. He said about the Villa game, right? We had 7 players in the box trying to salvage something. Like what do you want a prize for that? I mean, it's like he's like 4 years old. We had 7 players in the box trying to get a win. Like, oh wait, mate, like this is Premier League football. You know what I mean?
I really like that he was like, what he was saying was trying to get a win, but he's like got like word of the day toilet paper, and he's seen the word salvage. He thought, I'll use that. That's good.
Like you did with accumulation.
Yeah.
Accumulation's been on a few sheets, hasn't it? Because it keeps coming out week after week after week.
Yeah, he's had accumulation. He's had magic points.
Crux, when the daffodils are out, we know it's the crux of the season that he basically lifted straight from Mao Zedong thought. He basically kind of rephrased a bit of Mao Zedong thought. I think he'd been reading some Mao's work from the 60s, hadn't he? Getting himself inspired. When the daffodils are in season, it's the crux. Yeah, it's amazing. I love that poetry, the sweet poetry.
I wonder if we could manipulate Bruce's press conferences by replacing his toilet roll on the sly.
Yeah, we should very much try that. We could make our own. What word would you put in, Norman? What word would you want to see Steve Bruce start to use in press conferences?
Shite.
Coterminous.
Use it in a sentence, but as though you're Steve Bruce.
What? Say it as I'm Steve Bruce.
Try and do the accent as well.
Oh God, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that. It's just it's too hideous, isn't it? Yeah. I'd like to report just co-terminus anyway. I brought in Joe Linton because it was a move that I thought was co-terminus with how we've been playing Dwight Gale recently, and I hope that I can get Big Joe to inspire a win. But we need Rich Oliver on for the actual impressions. But if we write the dialogue, Rich Oliver can just pop in and say the words.
Yeah, Rich is excellent. I'm sure he's put out. I always have to watch it during the first half when I do a show just before, but I'm sure Rich has done another. Speaking of Big Jow, we have a question from Alex Hurst, our dear leader. What's Jacob?
Speaking of Mao,
use of stars there, like bleeping out his name. I love that.
Yeah. What's Jacob Murphy got to do to get a game ahead of Joe Linton? Well, I think Jacob Murphy, personally, I think Jacob Murphy needs to set up a camera in Steve Bruce's bathroom and
to watch him reading the toilet roll.
Yeah. Oh God.
Co-terminus.
Co-terminus.
Yeah. I don't even know why I said bathroom, just like one of the rooms in his house. And to like
bathroom's the weirdest one, like to choose. Why would he go to the bathroom?
I don't know. He must be doing something weird in there. I don't know. Joe, the insinuation of what I'm trying to say is that Joe Linton has compromising imagery of Steve Bruce. Like, that's the insinuation I'm making. Of course, with no evidentiary support. Norman, what do you think Jacob Murphy's got to do?
He's just got to learn to do better carries. He's got to learn to do more carries, because the thing is, you take Joe Linton out that team and we'll lose at least 6 carries per game. And obviously those carries, I think Graham Potter basically trolled Newcastle today, didn't he, when he said they're very good on the counter-attack, especially with Joe Linton. Like, Graham Potter said that. It's like...
Yeah, I was like, has Graham Potter ever watched us play?
No, but I genuinely think Potter is taking the piss. He's saying it to like make Brucey think, ooh, big Graham's scared of Big Joe, so I'll stick Big Joe in. I mean, it's just absolutely spectacular. But I think Jacob Murphy not getting a game ahead of Joe Linton is ridiculous. Look, Murphy, right? I tell you what, probably a very good championship player. Hasn't worked out for him in the Premier League. He's been at Newcastle. This is his 3rd season now. We spent a season out on loan. No one's really kind of come sniffing around from the Premier League. He'd probably, if he got a transfer from Newcastle, more likely be to another championship club. But at the same time, given the situation we're in, he's direct. He's not afraid to try and take on a player. He's not afraid to take a shot. He's decent with set pieces, and he looks like he doesn't let mistakes faze him. He has a shot that doesn't matter. Whereas Joe Linton, he fears committing himself because he's so scared of making a hash of it. Whereas Murphy, I think Murphy's actually got quite a lot of self-belief. And right now, what we need in that team is somebody with self-belief.
Yeah, you're right. Because actually, I know that we've all recalibrated what we think is good in terms of Joe Linton, but he has been a little bit better in recent games, and you can see him occasionally, not nearly enough. I want to be absolutely clear, not nearly enough for a number 9, like nowhere near the caliber that we'd even want in the Championship, if I'm perfectly honest, because he doesn't score goals. But he is getting into position. But you're right, it's that confidence, it's that fear thing. He definitely has it. Like, he doesn't put any power behind a strike. If he gets himself, and it's him and the keeper, and there is a chance there, and any good striker, I think, would put a lot of power behind the ball, at least thump the keeper with it. He does not. He dribbles it to whoever the opposition keeper is and hopes for the best. But yes, A2 says, this show is like therapy where we ridicule our question of a manager. Someone asked if I'm drunk. No, this is my first drink, but I don't drink very much, so possibly. But I don't think that I am. Alex says, just still on the topic of Joe Linton, if Joe Linton doesn't play, then all of the magic spray the club bought to spray on Joe's arse/hip would go to waste. Is this something you came up with, Mickey, that you think that Joe Linton might be really, really good, but has had a broken hip this entire time?
No, I didn't come up with that because he's not. It's terrible.
That's Amiobi, right? That Shola basically played for like 6 or 7 seasons with a completely mangled hip. And it's interesting, isn't it? The kind of like Shola, the comparison ultimately, like, as infuriating as Shola could be at times, you have to look back and think like Amiobi in this side would be an absolute gift. He would be a complete gift, Shola, in the current team. And it's interesting now because I don't think there's anything wrong with Joe Linton physically. I just think he's not a very good footballer, and also he's completely and utterly devoid of confidence. Joe Linton, right? Like, whatever talent was there, we've said this before. I mean, he went from Nagelsmann at Hoffenheim to Steve Bruce. I mean, it's just incredible the level of coaching you're going to get between Nagelsmann and Steve Bruce is incomparable, right? I mean, what can I say? It's like you've been doing the Grand Prix in a Formula One car, and then all of a sudden you're totally do the same race in a Robin Reliant.
I do have some sympathy with Joe Linton, because you think a lot of players struggle when they come from the continent and play in the Premier League, and he's only been here under Steve Bruce. Like that is extremely detrimental. And what I think about Joe Linton at the minute, Norman, you've like hit the nail on the head there. Like, it seems like when he gets into a position to shoot, which he has done a couple of times by doing well and beating a man, like using his strength, using his feet to beat a man and getting in a shooting position, it's almost like he's like, fucking hell, I'm in front of the goal, and just totally panics, like the kind of panic that we would get if we managed to get in that kind of position, which like is just absurd for a Premier League footballer. But that's honestly what it looks like, because it just like hoys his leg at it, and it trickles into the goalie, and it's a bit,
But his legs made of jelly, so even like it's like a flipper rather than a leg. So even,
but he has to possess the ability to strike a football properly, like to get to this level, to have played at Hoffenheim. He has to be able to shoot the ball properly and well and kick it properly. But I don't think he's done it playing for Newcastle since that first game against Spurs away last season. And that's for me his confidence.
I've just literally pictured him as like a fish gasping for air on the pitch now, like gasping to get back in the water. And it feels hideous because all I can see now is this dying fish that looks like Joe Linton, and it's put it this way. I'm not going to be having nightmares about my teeth falling underneath. I'm going to have a nightmare with Joe Linton being a massive fish gasping for air. So cheers.
What do you think that'll mean?
It'll mean I don't want Joe Linton to die like a gasping fish.
Wow, you're a benevolent man. Let's have a little look. Joseph Gardner says it seems like his football. This is Joe Linton. It seems like his football IQ is low to begin with, and he has zero confidence. Wouldn't be opposed to seeing him as a bench player for a manager who knows what the fuck he's doing. Yeah, that's probably a point. Like, he might be. I just don't think he's a number 9. I don't think he was at Hoffenheim. I don't think he's ever been sold as that. My friend of mine has an affiliation with Norman knows a club in Brazil, and so he's designing some T-shirts that they're called the Dragons. I think they're in Serie A or Serie B in Brazil, and his friend who sort of made him aware of them is involved in football scouting there, and he asked him about Joe Linton. He knows every single player, and he was like, "Oh, terrible player." So, yeah, Norman.
When I was in Sao Paulo in 2019 for True Faith, we spoke to a lad Murillo who's since become quite good mates. But we actually signed Joe Linton when we were in Sao Paulo, and I said to him, and this kid's a Newcastle fan as well. He's a Brazilian Newcastle fan. He's obviously got his Brazilian side as well. And I said, "What do you make of this kid, Joe Linton? 40 million. Is he well thought of in Brazil?" And he went, "I haven't heard of him." £40 million. Haven't heard
So
of him.
this is just it. Like, a lot of people haven't, and that this person had is a testament to the fact that they really know, like, every Brazilian player, especially ones who go abroad, and yeah, he was just like, oh no, he's that good. Greg Pullen says, not sticking up for Big Jow, as he is pretty gash. But even elite experienced player needs some personal development. So what chances he got? Absolutely. Look, I personally don't think Joe Linton's good enough to play in the Premier League, right? But the fact that he's in the Premier League isn't his fault. The fact that he was 40 million quid isn't his fault. We can slag him off all we want, and we do, because we want better for our football club. But let it be clear that this isn't a personal attack. I don't have a vendetta against Joe Linton. I think it's appalling that he's been put into the position that he's been put in by the people who valued him, by the people who brought him in, by the terrible coach that we've got. Like, I think he's a victim. We're the real victims. But I think he has, he's benefited in a massive way. He's getting paid loads of money and all of that stuff. And I'm sure that's wonderful for him. He never had a chance. He shouldn't be here. And that isn't his fault. It's the fault of people. You would go where the money was if you were a 20-odd-year-old, Brazilian kid who had come from over there to Germany. Norman?
I completely agree. What I would say is that there are issues that are quite obvious when he's on the pitch, and we're talking about the fact that he is scared to take a chance. The game against Villa, I think a few crosses were whipped in, and on two of them, like he just jumped like that. He didn't attack the ball. Now look, there's obviously a psychological issue there, right? Because like I know, like not everything you said is completely true, and I've said it a few times myself. I totally agree. But at the same time, that management must be able to see this extreme lack of confidence, this debilitating lack of confidence, which is stopping him even attacking a cross, right? It's stopping him taking a shot, stopping him taking a gamble. Like there are sports psychologists that have been involved in the game for like 20 years at the top level now. Is nobody giving him that kind of one-on-one support that's trying to kind of lift that obvious mental barrier from him? Because that's what happens in top level football now, right? If footballers have these these issues where their confidence is so drained that it becomes, as I say, debilitating, to get help. And I don't for 1 second, given the coaching setup at Newcastle, given how things are run, I don't for 1 second believe that they've thought maybe we could get in a sports psychologist from, because he probably does need to talk to someone about this.
That's such a good point. And I think there was an article, it was an Athletic, I think, and I think it might have been George, but maybe it was Chris, but it was one of the Athletics articles, and it was about a sports psychologist. I think it was an ex-player who had gone through that and was now a sports psychologist, and how it was like a much lower league team, maybe a Rochdale or something like that, and how much better all the players were playing after bringing in someone like that and adding that support. I think that's such a good point and really overlooked. And I think that could be because we don't, we're 15 minutes out from the match, and I'm not going to start talking about machismo and that sort of thing. But I think there is a barrier there, a cultural barrier to accepting that kind of support that is being broken down as we move on, but could be one of the reasons. I don't know if that there's a resistance. I think at Newcastle United there would be a resistance because it would mean spending any kind of money, and of course they don't do that. But I wonder.
We're the last, aren't we? We're the last for everything. We've got the worst training ground. We've got the worst coaching setup. We'll have the smallest staff. We've got the smallest staff running the club.
They're tiny.
Smallest admin team, smallest ticket office. Like, we do everything on last. So when this stuff becomes more popular and more common, we'll still be the last. We'll not have this kind of thing in for a long time. I've said for a while, Norman, in a similar vein, Joe Linton's struggles are so obvious. Not just from a mental perspective, but from a physical perspective. If we're going to play him as a striker, that he just cannot do it. A better club would bring someone in just to work with Joe Linton on being a striker one-on-one. Bring someone in that's effective in training strikers to be better. Nothing has changed at Newcastle. Joe Linton's been here the best part of 2 years now. We've not changed. We're not brought in anyone to work with him. How answer me this question: how much does a striking coach cost? Honestly, how much?
We've not brought in anyone. We brought him in. We brought in a translator, did we not? After half a season,
The translator, man. Yeah, the Austrian translator that come and speak Portuguese in England. You know what it is. What I will say, and this, you know what, everything's recorded now, so there's evidence of it, right? But you know, Van Gogh died skinned, right? He's a genius, Van Gogh, but he died skinned because he wasn't appreciated at his time. Steve Bruce gave the world the false 10, and we all mock him now. But 100 years down the line, when teams are storming the Champions League playing the false 10, Bruce will be looked at like Van Gogh is now. That's a possibility. Do you not think?
only if he cuts off his ear.
No.
That's the only way that'll happen. So, it's a really good point from Jonesy that I wanted to put up. Mental that the club would spend so much money on a player like Big Jow and then not invest in a structure that would allow him to potentially succeed. That is such a good point, written so succinctly, because that is our club all over, isn't it? It's just the odd random thing, expecting results and then not putting in the structures and the support to actually get them. I think that is such a good point. Well done, Jonesy. Well done. You've made my day. Let's have a little look. Christopher Hanna, who I know. Hey, Chris, thanks for watching. Only club at this level with one executive in Lee Charnley. Club is rotten from the top and is drifting down towards the lower leagues. You can't really argue with it. Like, it is, I mean, they want to sell. We've been told they want to sell. Fine. So drop the price and sell the club, like, to somebody who will buy it. You can see this lack of ambition totally permeating every level of the club, and I think to the extent that the players are not ambitious, not after anything. Steve Bruce publicly saying his remit is to stay in the Premier League. I mean, we could go on and on, Mickey, but we won't.
It's laughable that we only have one executive, though, isn't it? Like, imagine that at any other club. Like, how many people do you think Man United have got in the boardroom making the key decisions?
Just Marcus Rashford.
It'll be absolutely loads. Like, and it'll be the same across the league. Like, it's just a joke that it's only Lee Charnley, and it's even worse when you never hear from him. You don't, nothing ever comes out from what Lee Charnley said or done. What do they do in the board meetings? Like, who goes? Do they even talk about anything? Like, who takes a minute? There can't be anyone because it's just fucking Lee.
Yeah, well, he does all of it. He writes.
He puts voices on and does like two opinions.
Yes, I think so. I think he gets the toilet paper. He knows which words he's going to say, and then he has a conversation with himself. Norman, did you want to jump in?
It's I think the Charnley situation, it's exactly what you'd expect from Mike Ashley, because the reality is, we know this, he applies the same logic to Newcastle United, a football club in the Premier League, as he does to Sports Direct. Like, it's the same logic. Do it as cheap as you possibly can and squeeze as much money out of it as you possibly can, with minimal investment. And it's just it's embarrassing, really. I mean, the reality is that I guess we don't feel it as much because we're involved in it, we're Newcastle fans. But like, if I was external to Newcastle United and I was looking at it, like, objectively, like, I would think that we're a bit of embarrassment, just a bit of an embarrassment even as a business model, right? And I think Stephen King, Ashley, just your typical neoliberal businessman power, like, because you're absolutely bang on. It's exactly what it is. It's just this kind of, this sort of Thatcherite mentality of just basically squeeze as much profit as you possibly can out of the most minimal pittance amount of investment. And it's really sad. And we all know the crack. Like, we can all sit here and, you know, we complain about Steve Bruce, we complain about Joe Linton, etc. We know the reality. Like, if Mike Ashley wasn't at Newcastle United, this absolute shit show of a football club wouldn't exist the way that he currently does. And that's the sad thing. To a certain extent, Ashley employing people like Bruce allows him to get away with it because it deflects the attention from his utter mismanagement of this football club that we love deeply.
It's a very good point. We spend a lot of time on here. We have today slagging off Steve Bruce and slagging off, our players and stuff. But the reason we are where we are is because our owner is dreadful and neglectful and not interested and is, decimating our football club. We are 10 minutes from kickoff. So I want to just quickly talk about Steve Bruce because we haven't done enough of that. Andrew Charlton said a little while ago, about 10 minutes ago, that accumulation of points has come up once again in the pre-match interview. Can you believe it? If you're playing Brucey Bingo, you must have a full house by now. Mark's watching. He says, Bruce says, we're unbeaten in 3 and getting back to the level that's expected. Now, I saw this come up, that was about 13 minutes ago because I can see when it was done. The level that's expected is not drawing to teams in and around us, not in us. They're not in us.
Don't want an entire football team in us. No.
But Norman, what do you make of that? We're unbeaten in 3 and getting back to the level of that's expected.
Well, that's kind of almost shooting himself in the foot, right? Because it's like, look, the level that you should expect under me is a little draw away at West Brom, and we're getting there. We did it. Like the level is so low that we're getting there because we've drawn away at West Brom 0-0, 1-1 at home to like a really poor Villa side minus Jack Grealish. 1-0 at home to a Wolves side who had nothing to play for. Us getting back to that level must mean that level is very, very low, which kind of contradicts what he says in the sense that our expectations are ridiculously high. So it's all just a little bit confusing, and I'm really glad to see that he's used the word accumulation again because that's coterminous with what he said yesterday. And he also said, you know what he said yesterday? I'll never walk away from a challenge, that's for sure. I'm pretty sure
he got Hull promoted.
I'm pretty sure he got Hull promoted and then left in the summer because the board weren't going to give him any money to spend. But I mean, I might be wrong on there. So that kind of sounds like walking away from a challenge. And also,
he was at Sheffield. With the challenge.
Exactly. Yeah. I never walk away from a challenge unless someone gives me loads of money. And also, I only want what's best for the club. It's like, well, no, because what that is. You're basically admitting on a regular basis now that you haven't got a clue what you're doing. You don't know how to turn it around. You're hopeful we'll get something. So if you genuinely want what's best for the club, you leave. You don't know, do you? Like, he wants what's best for him.
Yeah, of course he does. Of course he does. I'm going to mute you, Norman. I'm sorry. It's me. It's never when Mickey talks. It's just me. It is. It's Brucey is looking out for Brucey, and you can also tell that, I think, in this sort of very very thin-skinned, everyone's out to get me, it's hysterical, poor old me approach that he's taken to his press conferences and post-match comments and stuff like that. Because Jack says he walked away from Palace too. He seems to walk away from a challenge. Mickey, what do you make of the pre-match comments? This accumulation of points. I personally love to be told how the league works repeatedly by the manager of the club that I've supported since I was a child. But what do you think?
It's great. I don't know how he knows that I forget how leagues work every week, and he needs to remind me. But yeah, 3 cheers for Steve for that. I've found, especially in recent weeks, but over the last few months, to find a lot, I'm not going to say happiness, but a lot less despair by completely ignoring Steve Bruce. So I never watch his pre-match press conferences. I never watch his post-match press conferences. I often pick up what he said on Twitter, but I don't watch them, and not watching him actually saying them by in picture TV format. It's not. It doesn't affect me as badly. So I honestly would strongly recommend everyone do it, because then you see that he comes out with things like saying, today it's all about the accumulation of points. Everybody fucking knows that, Steve. The problem is that we haven't accumulated any points, and we're not going to accumulate any more points for the rest of the season because we're absolutely terrible at football.
Everybody fucking knows that, Steve. I wish a journalist would say that back to him. Yeah, everybody fucking knows. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to change?
It's the key question, isn't it? And the answer is absolutely nothing. We're going to continue to play the same mental formation without any strikers, and we're going to continue to lose games that we should be able to get something from. That's where we are. That is Newcastle United now. It's pathetic.
It is where we are. Well, diamonds are forever, as Norman said very accurately earlier on. We're 5 minutes out from the game. Norman, what's your prediction for the score tonight?
I had to unmute myself there because you keep muting us. So there was a little bit of a delay. My feelings aren't hot, like. My feelings aren't hot. Obviously, Newcastle are going to win 2-0.
Both Joe Linton, right?
Oh, Joe Linton will get one, definitely. Matty Longstaff, even though he's not in the squad, he'll score.
Mickey, score tonight.
I think we'll lose 2-0.
All right. I think we're going to have an absolutely thrilling 0-0.
Paul M's comment at the end just made me giggle, like, sorry.
It'd be funny if Bruce gets coterminous into his post-match comment.
I'd have heart failure.
I would be so happy. I was just about to say a 0-0 draw. I'm going to go for goals. I'm going to say it's 1-1. I think Brighton will do it. We will do it. And a whole point will be ours. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for sticking with us. It's a horrible time to be a Newcastle fan, but we try and have fun with it. So thank you. Take care. Enjoy the game. And we'll be back tomorrow with the free post-match podcast. Stay safe.